Do you think this Philippines is peso poor, but they have love rich? They have what I don't have. They have family, they have love, they have smile. I'll be walking on the street, I'll point to somebody, and they just smile at me.
Okay, welcome to Living Boldly with Purpose. I am Dr. B. I'm your host, and another just interesting, incredible story that we are going to hear today. I just love the fact that I get the opportunity on a daily basis to talk to some of the most interesting people in the entire world. And what I get to tell you today is I actually get to talk to somebody who is on the other side of the world as we speak, 13 or about 12 from where I'm at with daylight savings, 12 hours ahead or 13 hours ahead of where we're at, or 14 now, I guess 14 hours ahead of where I'm at in Denver, Colorado. But Tommy has decided to move to the Philippines, which I think is just phenomenal, and be able to live, maybe just a different life, a different way of thinking about something. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in where we're at in our lives and the fast-paced, we got to get stuff done all day long, every day, in order to just enjoy life. And so to see him be able to move on the other side of the world, slow down a little bit, be able to help people. And tell me, I don't know if, as we move into the show, maybe you'll be able to answer this, but I don't think you can live with purpose and not serve others. And it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing through whether it's the debt release stuff or it's building a dome that houses people that, I have an assistant. In fact, I have two employees. And I love the fact that I get to support them in different ways every single week or however often I get the opportunity to do that. And so, when they give me some stuff, but I get so much more value from supporting the families that are there. And so, to hear the stories and the amount of typhoons that have been there over the last year, and how much rain they're getting and how much it just destroys places. One of them, when she told me about her dad that doesn't have windows anymore and trying to figure out how to get windows. And then I know you talked, we talked a little bit before the show, and, we would say that they're impoverished. Most of them would say that they're happy. And, you've been able to live in even more extreme conditions here in the United States, where there doesn't seem to be any excuse with the wealth and, resources and the things that we have in this country, that people in this country would have to live in a way that they do in some regards. And hopefully you'll be able to talk a little bit about that today. But I'm excited to hear your story. As I do all my guests, I ask them to tell their stories because I get to know who they are, not just what they do, which is so important to in the context of, if you know the person and you can have a relationship with the person, then you could probably trust them, and then you can probably all kind of things come from building relationships. And so many times we'll do some of these podcasts, or we'll talk to people and we'll just say, what do you do? What do you do? And hopefully that, I don't think you are, and I know I'm not wanting to be defined by what I do. I'd rather be defined in who I am. So thank you for being on the show. Thank you for doing the things that you're doing. I appreciate you. I appreciate your efforts and things you do for people. And so go ahead and please tell us your story, how you got to where you are right now.
Well, where I think is the most important question, because once you know where you are, then you have your time.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it's early in the morning for me. That doesn't matter. I'm retired. So I start back, let's say, I don't know, 1988 or 85 when I got married. And I was about 26, and I was kind of going nowhere in a sense, living in Southern California. I had been a commercial diver, so I worked in the Gulf of America, which is wonderful to say now. So I worked in that field. It's called a patch, and there's about 2,000 oil rigs there at the time. And I was a commercial diver, a construction diver. We have two kind of categories: the welder diver and a construction diver. So I was basically being in a trade of construction, just happened to be underwater. And then the oil glut came along, so we got laid off, and so I came back to California and worked on ships and tankers and super tankers. I drove a hydraulic sweeper that would knock the barnacles off the boat and make it go through the water faster and more efficient. And then happened to have a girlfriend that was interested in being a manicurist, and so I took her to a manicuring school to find out what it's all about to be a manicurist. And then upon leaving, I said, "Well, how do men do in this?" And she said, "Sit back down. Women love to have their feet massaged by a man." I went, "Oh, yeah,
Oh.
women." So if you're asking why I became a manicurist, well, that was the
Mhm.
reason why it was women. So so then, and then when I got a job in a nail salon, I was introduced, and he's not gay. So
Oh gosh.
that's how I was introduced to everybody.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
then I met a lady there, and by massaging her feet, which is a great way of introducing yourself. And we decided to get married, but then she says, a manicurist, it's just not the category of a husband I was thinking of. And I thought, well, what if I had my own company? And she said, well, that's yeah, entrepreneur, that's fine. Then I went, now what? So I looked around and saw that I had notes for a salon. I
Uh-huh.
was interested in opening a salon. So I wrote a book under my pen name, Tommy Kilpatrick, and it was called How to Open a Salon. And I sold that in beauty schools. And then
Wow.
I showed them reflexology, which is massaging the hands and feet, and people liked that. So I went to trade shows, and then people asked for a book. So then I started writing a book and ended up writing a 600-page medical textbook. And I sold the book for $125. Back then, that was a lot of money, but I could teach them how to make $1 a minute. So in a matter of a couple hours, 3 hours, they could make the money back. So it was quite a benefit to them and benefit to me too. So then the book was quite successful. I got an infomercial contract. My father happened to be an attorney and a judge.
Really?
So we worked on a 13-page contract, and was going to be very, very lucrative for me. So they needed me available to do radio interviews and morning, noon, and night. And so I lived off my credit cards. I had 3 credit cards, and I asked them initially, "Are you a criminal organization?" They thought it was a little strange, but in the infomercial business back then, it was quite a shady kind of deal. So I had to keep asking probing questions about who they are. And so I found they were legit. We did our due diligence, but I didn't ask about their talent. And I had one gentleman named of Kevin Trudeau, which back in the years was quite popular in the infomercial,
Mhm.
but the FTC came down on him on making false claims, and the company canceled all the new talent. So our contracts were canceled, and I was stuck with $85,000 of credit card debt.
Whoa. Whoa.
Yeah. So I shocked at first because I was
Yeah.
expecting $100,000. That's what they're telling me I was going to make per month
Oh
because of
gosh.
my ability to talk to people and have people work their pain out on their steering wheel. As people are driving into work, as I'm talking on a radio show, I'm teaching
Mhm.
people how to work their pains out. And they would call at the radio station, "This guy's right. I can't believe it." So it was going to be about $100,000 a month. So that's what I was looking forward to.
Yeah, the
So
millionaire in 10 months. I mean, that's wow.
yeah, but it didn't happen. So then I got kind of depressed, and I'm
Yeah.
going, "How am I going to pay this debt?" And so I would talk to my father-in-law, and he says, "Well, language is law. So if you say it's a debt, then you have to agree it's a debt. So pay it." I went, "Well, I don't have it." So that's your problem. It's your tough luck. And I went, "Hmm." So I started thinking back about my dad. He made a big influence on me. He said, "Speak about things you know."
Mhm.
And so I had gone to college to be a CPA. Although I never graduated, I was working as the controller of the country club of Rancho Bernardo as a
Okay.
CPA without the credentials. I knew how to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
But I woke up one morning going, wait a second, the credit card was never a debt. So from that revelation, I was able to draw together a lawsuit, and I sued all three banks in federal court in Los Angeles by myself. And you ask, oh, did you win? Well, what do you call winning? Oh, that's a jury trial. So I did ask for a jury trial. Oh, the
Oh, you did.
jury determined that you were correct and you didn't owe the money, and the bank was got a judgment against them. No, that didn't happen. The judge threw it out. Well,
Oh,
then you lost. Well, my credit report showed no more $85,000 of credit card debt. I never received a 1099-C, which is when a bank loans you money and you don't pay it back, then they notify the government that you got $100,000 without paying us back. So that's income. So you got to pay taxes on that,
oh
and then
gosh.
we get a tax deduction. And then my credit report was squeaky clean. And funny thing is, just about a few years ago, I applied for a credit card, and I had no credit score because I've been living in poverty. Uh,
Hmm.
there's more of the story there in the poorest county of Maine for 10 years. So I was off grid. And so I was out of the world. No one knew about me anywhere. So I came back with no credit score. And funny enough, that credit card company, Capital One, gave me a $500 credit card
The
with
same
no
company.
score
Oh my
because
gosh.
I had the same contract.
Yeah.
I had the not the contract, but I had the contact with them, and they
Uh-huh.
gave me a credit card even when I sued them. So it's crazy.
Wow. That's crazy. You sued
So
them, didn't give them
that's
the
a
money,
little bit,
and they gave you more money, more credit. I love it.
yeah. So there is hope. So
Yes.
to kind of put the story a little bit together here, the marriage was going great. I thought everything was going fine, and then one day the wife says, "Get out and take the dog with you." So welcome to America.
Wow.
Jeez.
She
So
just
I
said
thought everything
she
was
had
going
enough.
great. You never know. But
And this is the one that
so
you met
what I
with
did,
the beauty salon, right?
what's that?
This is the one from the nail salon, right? The lady you married.
Yes, that's the one I
Okay.
met in a nail salon, 28 years. She was a nurse. So when I was going to the hospital, when I first started dating her and being there with her, I saw most of the other nurses being Filipinas. So that got me a little bit of thinking about their caregiving. So we'll talk more about that later. But back to
Okay.
the story. So yeah, about 12 years ago, she said, "Get out and take the dog with you." I had already adult children. So, yeah, the writing was on the wall, and it's from my perspective. So it's always one-sided. There's always two sides of the story. So I can't say I was the best husband in a sense. No infidelity or anything like that. It's just she always wanted more money. It was never enough. Never enough could I
Gotcha.
make.
Hmm.
So off I walked with a backpack and a dog, and I purposely became homeless. And I took a vow of poverty. So I walked and talked and walked in faith of God. So I ended up, my first stop was in Sedona, Arizona, which was quite religious, quite spiritual. And
Hmm.
I met a evangelical family who God told them to start a bakery, and they did in their own home. And I said, I'll give you a year. So I stayed with them, and I saw miracles happening all the time through prayer. And so I walk in faith from my new family, in a sense,
Hmm.
that gave me guidance of the spiritual way. And life was pretty good. And I gave them the year and moved on and ended up in Michigan, because a guy from Michigan was a mechanic, more like a body shop guy. So he
Uh-huh.
bought two cars in Arizona because they don't have any rust. It was a particular kind of make and model that he had customers who would buy it if he fixed the body. So he had one car he was driving, but he needed me to drive a car to follow him all the way back to Michigan. So the word from God was for me to move east, and that's what I did. And I ended up at his house, and he's going, you can't stay at my house because you were supposed to drive the car here. He says, but have you ever heard of
Not to
couch
stay here.
surfing?
Gotcha.
No.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
he goes online and shows you, here's couch surfing, and there's a guy in this town that's willing to give you a couch to sleep on tonight. I went, okay.
Really? Like
So
a hotel,
here's
but
this
with the couch surfing. That's crazy. Oh wow.
I never heard of it before.
No.
So again, putting trust and faith in God, I said, okay, that's what my next step is going to be. So I hung out at his house, and it turned out to be a couple of days. He was pretty cool about it, but he told me about wolfing. And I went, wolfing? Yes, WWOOF,
Hmm.
and it stands for Worldwide Organic Opportunity Farming. And what it is, farmers around the world will offer you free room and board just to hang out with them and do farm work. And I went, wow, this is fantastic. And by the way, there's one nearby. The town next door has one of these Wolfer farms. So we went out there, and the lady farmer, that the wife, interviewed me and said, yeah, this is what we do. And I went, wow, this is great, but I don't want to be in Michigan. I'm headed towards New York. And the guy said, well, I got a contract that I'm leaving in a couple of days to go to New York City. So why don't you come along with me and help me drive? And I went, okay. So there I was in New York City, and I looked up a farm in Connecticut, and it was a place near called Old Saybrook,
Hmm.
and there was a Buddhist temple next to it. And I went, wow, what an opportunity. And then they have no heat, no running water, let me try, no electricity. And it was amazing to be on a farm and next to the interstate I-95 and hear the traffic roaring by. And here I am in this place that has no lighting, no heat. So it was getting kind of cold. So the Catholic Church donates their little stubs, their little candle stubs to him. And I would light two or three of those a night, and that would be keeping me warm in my little camper.
A candle kept you warm?
Yes, that's how I got
Holy,
my heat, was through candles.
wow. I don't. You hope you had a blanket too, because I every time I've been around a
I had a
candle.
I had a sleeping bag. So
Okay.
yeah, I was never dirty. I was never a drug addict. So I don't smoke, I
Yeah.
don't drink, I don't do drugs, not even prescription drugs. So I don't do any of that. I'm very healthy. I'm a vegetarian, so that's the way I've lived my life.
Okay.
So here I was on a farm, and I spent several months. And I had given a vow of poverty, so I didn't want anything from him. But I helped him in sales at the farmers market.
Hmm.
So he would make jam, and we would make jam and jellies and stuff like that. We'd have to go out and collect the berries and things from the plants on the side of the road. So it was quite an experience to grow food. A local health food store would give us their excess food and stuff that's gone rotten now or almost rotting.
Hmm.
And so they would give it to us, and we would eat it or replant it. This is the funniest thing. They would give us green
Really?
onions, the
Uh-huh.
long stalks, but they're all flopped over and they weren't looking very good. But they still had those little hairs, that the roots still
Uh-huh.
there. So
Yeah.
we would replant those in his farm. And in about 2 to 3 weeks, they came back to life, and we sold them at the farmer's market for a profit. So we would get free food, and then we would make a profit on it in a couple 3 weeks. So it was pretty entertaining.
Wow.
So life was good. I
How
had been
long would it
divorced by
take the
that
onion
time.
to grow? Like you said you replanted it. Would it grow really fast, or you had to wait six
Well, it
months
was
to replant it?
already a grown onion.
Oh,
It
okay.
just had flopped over. So in 2 or 3 weeks of moisture and sunshine, it stopped right back up. We might trim some stuff off,
Okay,
but yeah,
gotcha.
it looked great in a couple of weeks. So
Wow. Wow.
um, just
Okay.
how you have to live with only very few things. And
Hmm.
so I'd always been brought up with money. You could say I had a golden spoon in my mouth and stuff like that, having a dad as a CPA in the upper middle class, never having to want anything, always given to me. But I worked when I was quite young. So, but it was a different lifestyle. And then I was there for a couple of months, and a lady came by. She was about 30, and she found me attractive, which is that's unusual in America. And she had a 2-year-old. So I went, okay, I'm not too interested in children again, but let's have some fun. She took me up to Maine. She
Uh-huh.
had an uncle that was a merchant marine, and he would leave in the winter because he didn't want to spend winters in Maine. So we went up on the winters to stay at his house and basically house it for his dog and a cat and stuff, and be in the poorest county of Maine. And this was an area that the Sackler family had targeted back in about 2000. And their
Hmm.
plan was to sell end of life drug called Oxycontin to children. So they
Oh
wanted
gosh,
addiction from the children.
to
Yes, they
children.
they
Oh my gosh.
they promoted this Oxycontin, and they paid doctors more money if they would give out more prescriptions, and then they would keep upping the dosage, the power of the Oxycontin,
Yeah.
and got all these kids addicted. They would go in for, let's say, uh, a thing for their teeth, their wisdom teeth, when they had to go
Hmm.
in. So they came out of surgery, they'd be given Oxycontin. This is end of life uh, very, very addictive painkiller, extremely
Yeah.
powerful
Yeah.
painkiller. This was used for someone who's going to die tomorrow, or die in a week, or die in a month, or die in a year from now. What do you care if they get addicted to Oxycontin? They're going to be dead anyway. But the Sackler family was such an evil company, evil family, that they targeted these children, and they would be in a sport, let's say football, and they get
Mhm.
hurt. Well, the doctor would prescribe this end of life painkiller, told that it was no, no, it's all safe, and they all believed it because they were making money off it. So about, and they made about $15 billion, and they left this area devastated. They targeted two places. One was in West Virginia
Mhm.
because of the coal mines and the poverty. So they
Yeah.
figured out where they could go with the most impoverished people to get away with what their drug is, and this area called Down East, which is
Mhm.
in Maine. And it's strange to call it Down East. I like telling the story. The Back in the shipping days of schooners, they would go downwind going east. So from the wind hitting the Appalachians, it would force it to go up. So from New York, they'd have their sails opened up, and they'd be traveling north, uh, do, uh, yeah,
Okay.
down. They're going downwind and going east. So that's why that area is called Down East. But that was actually in the book. Let's see, I'm trying to remember the name of the title. It was also a show on Hula, Dope, something I'll
Yeah,
remember later.
yeah, I
But
Dope Stick. It was called Dope Stick with,
yeah, Dope Sick. And
Michael
the
Keaton. I
area
lo
I lived
You were
in
telling the
was
story, and I
mentioned.
was like, "This sounds so familiar." So, yes,
Yes.
it was
I
called Dope
lived in
Stick.
that area. I
Yeah,
met the
yeah.
people. I knew the drug addicts. I interacted with them. It was just a crazy world to live in that poverty. It's amazing. It's tied 16th in the entire nation for poverty. And I was living in places that had no heat, no electricity, no toilet. You'd go outside in the woods to do your
Wow.
business, and that's how I live.
Yeah.
So you think this Philippines is peso poor, but they have love rich. They have what I don't
Mhm.
have. They have family, they have love, they have smile. I'll be walking on the street, I'll point to somebody, and they just smile at me. I start laughing,
Wow.
and they start laughing, and we just have so much joy here. So this is a wonderful paradise for me to be at. So
Yeah.
back to the story, in a sense, of the Sackler family and doing all this
Mhm,
devastation and stuff. So from there, we got a farm, and I
mhm.
lived off the farm for about 6 years. I was on a farm there, and I thought I
And
was
that's
going to
in Maine,
die.
right? You're
Just
in Maine still.
bury me in the back,
Okay.
no important. So I gave up my passport, gave up my ID, had no interaction basically with the outside world. I left the farm about 12 times in 6 years. So I purposely was on a 32-acre farm. We had hundreds of animals. We grew our own food. We grew medicine. We were very well connected to the Micmac and the other Indian tribes that were in that area. And I do say Indian instead of native and that kind of stuff, because if they call themselves native, they don't get the money from the Indian Bureau. And American Indian, the movement AIM was the American Indian movement. So
Yeah, yeah.
they get funding if they call themselves Indians. And India actually is not what we think it they're called. It's a Dios, from God. So Columbus came there and said, these are people from God. And that's where the word Indian came from, is their own Spanish language. So it doesn't mean that they're from India and stuff like that. So a little side note.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was really well connected with a spiritual healing and the herbs and things we would use to protect ourselves and from things. So when COVID came along, it was really strange. We had my girlfriend at the time, she was going into this one town, and she heard that people were getting sick, and they were
Mhm.
getting sick, a weird sick and long sickness of like a lung infection. And so she said, I'm not going there. I'm staying here on the farm until this thing blows over. And I said, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be a short thing, be blown over. I didn't know that Fauci and Bill Gates were in on it back in 2000. They announced that this was going to be the decade of the vaccine, and they were going to plan to vaccinate every single person in the entire world. So they all pre-planned. This was all done. So here I am on the farm, and we had a party for the medicine man who was stuck in Florida. So I came off the farm, probably the first time in maybe a year, to go to this party. And I had the medicine man's wife, who's crazy, came up to me and said, all you want is people to die. You're a Republican. I said, I've never voted for a Democrat or Republican. They're both evil, so I don't vote evil. So I didn't know what she was talking about. And I'm going, why are you doing this distance? Oh, yeah, we got to stay 6 feet apart. I started laughing.
Oh
72
gosh.
inches, not 71, not 73, but 72 is a magic number. And you're wearing masks. I said, can you
Uh,
smell the barbecue? Yeah. Well, you're getting a virus. It's not going to stop a virus. Are you people crazy? I called it the insanity virus. Something's done wrong with you people. And they wouldn't shake my hand. I'm going, medicine man did. He let me come close to him, but
mhm.
he didn't go into quarantine for 2 weeks. It was all purpose to destroy our lives from basically Satan. So it
Yeah,
was all planned that they destroy our country and our world. And that's what they did. They destroyed a lot of people.
yeah, yeah. Wow. All right, so you're in Maine. You're doing you're farming. You come off the farm. You're in the middle of COVID. Can't get next to anybody. How do you end up? Well, yeah. Keep telling me. I guess what happens after that? Is that somehow you end up in the Philippines? But I want to hear it. Yeah.
Yes. So life I thought was pretty good. I raised a 2 year old to be 11 and
Okay.
a good boy, and I did homeschooling. We were allowed by that in the state of Maine, and we were always evaluated at the end of the year. And the Christian teacher said, "You're doing great." So we were doing homeschooling, and then something happened.
Oh,
Shift happens, and make sure you pronounce the F. So the girlfriend ended up having an affair with a neighbor and continued while I was there for the next 4 months because I didn't have any money. I didn't have an ID. I didn't have anything. So it took a while to get my things together and to leave. She wanted me to stay. So, oh, it's not now that I have seen these videos of the women and MGTOW and it I should have listened to Ho Math, HOE_math. I
mm-hmm.
think he's only been on YouTube for maybe about a year and a half, but he explains relationships so well. I've never found yet one thing I disagree with him. And I'm a
Wow.
skeptic. I'm a doubting Thomas. I'm looking for something to disagree with Homath, but he explains it exactly what relationships my whole life is relationships with. So I didn't want to have any kind of a Western woman again. So that's why I came east with a feminine. And that's what I
Okay.
have now, a feminine wife. Girlfriend, fiance. We just yesterday made a deal to buy a condo. So we're living good. We'll be living great. So I ended up leaving there and I flew to Los Angeles. And a friend of mine, kind of like a brother, I stayed at his place for a couple of weeks and then flew to the Philippines. So back up a little bit, why the Philippines is I helped a guy about a year and a half before that. And I said, what else can I do for you? He says, all I want is a wife. I come home. He's a Canadian living right by our place there in
Mm-hmm.
Maine. And he says, I come home. It's dark. It's cold. And I just want to have a woman in my life. And I said, well, have you ever thought about another country? Because I was thinking at the time to go to Argentina. I like what
Okay.
Malaya has done there, and the economy is going great. And if you take $7,000 and invest it in a company, and this can be your own import export business, there's so many expats there that it's so simple that they need something that you can go back to America and bring it back. You've got an import export business. And so in 2 years, you actually get a passport. And that's so important to have a second passport because when COVID 2 or 3 comes along and shuts down all the American ports, I say, no, no, I'm an Argentinian citizen. Bye bye. So that's what I was looking towards. And he said,
Okay.
yes, actually, I have been interacting with a Filipina for the last couple of years. And a friend of mine married a Filipina. And when he gets home, she takes his shoes off, she rubs his feet, dinner's made, the house is clean, and they live right across from the mall. And she doesn't want to leave. She has no interest in material things. She just wants this, what I call there's a Filipina devotion look. And when you see these videos about marrying a Filipina or being connected to a Filipina, look in their eyes when they look at their husband or their boyfriend. I've been riding the jeepneys, which is a like a World War II bus, and it's all these people in the bus going back and forth. You're squished. You are next to 20 people. They'll pack, and if they put one more, you just scoot and make some more room. It's just what a wonderful feeling. But I'm looking at the women there, looking at their man, and they just have this love that I wanted, and I have, because now I have a lady who just adores me, and she thinks I'm wonderful. She's 20 years younger. I'm not going for the 18 or 20-year-old, which will do that same devotion. But the fastest way for a Filipina to improve their lifestyle, and their standard of living is to marry a foreigner, because I'm on a pension and
Mhm.
I can live in Manila for only about 1,200 pesos, which is about $19. So I had a hotel room in a nice area. It was air conditioned. I had the food I'd eat off the street. So I would go in for about $1. I'd have breakfast of rice, always rice, because rice is life to them, and I'd have eggs and vegetables and soup for $1 or less. And then my visa cost me $1 a day. So for $19 a day, and with a the average person on Social Security gets 2,000. I don't get that, but you can live very well here. And then I go to the farm and I live there for a month or two, and it only costs me $1 a day, and that's for my visa. So they make $1 for every time I visa. Now, once I marry her, that cost will go away. So
Now, just
that's
a
where I kind of had an interest in going to the Philippines.
the Philippines. So I have a question because I'm stuck in Maine and you end up in the Philippines. Now, are you getting, because you said you vowed for poverty, so you didn't have any money, no ID, no passports, no nothing. Now all of a sudden, is it you start getting Social Security? Is that why how you were able to get your passport and your papers to be able to get to the Philippines, or you got in a crate and got in the back of an airplane somehow? How did you get? I mean, how did money show up for you to be able to do this?
Yes. So being on the farm, I had nothing. And so I got a chance to go to the uncle was going down for into North Carolina for a birthday party. He was going to be gone for a couple of weeks. I went, oh, there's my escape. So I went to house at his house for 2 weeks, and that got me off the farm.
Uh-huh.
Then the 2 weeks went by, and I was making connections to be a painter, construction. I've done all kinds of things. So we rebuilt the house that we were living in on the farm there. So I've done all the electrical, plumbing, drywall, everything. So I looked around for some painting jobs, and I was able to get a painting job very quickly. And then that was be able to start the process of me planning to open a thing called the 3H Club, which is hunger, housing, and humanity.
Okay.
And hunger, I figured out how we could feed people for free and still make a profit of about $5,000 a day from a restaurant that's not a restaurant. That's a book I'm working on right now. And the other one was housing. And I figured out how we could combine five little ladies, and I say that affectionately, that are struggling right now because of Social
Mhm.
Security is not enough. I put them in one house as a condo, and five Social Security checks, like let's say 10,000 is in the account. Then you have enough to pay all the expenses. But who's going to take care of them? A Filipina RN, a nurse, a registered
Okay.
nurse.
Okay.
So I go, oh, I will go to the Philippines, find a nursing family, and bring them to America, have them stay in the house, give these little ladies care, and they get paid, let's say, $2,000 a month. But that
Mhm.
$2,000 in the Philippines is a huge amount of money. You can
Yeah, it
bring
is.
a lot of members of your family out of poverty instantly. And the Filipina family, so it's going to be the wife, the husband, and maybe some children. They all live in this house with the five little ladies and take care of them for the rest of their life.
Oh,
So now
wow.
we can lease a 12-passenger van. The husband is the driver, is the one who shovels the snow, is the one who does the lawn care,
Mhm.
and does all the wood chopping, makes the house nice and warm, is there to fix anything and everything. Because the deal is, after the third little lady dies, because this is their last home they're going to be in,
Mhm.
then that family owns the house.
Oh,
And this will
the
be all done
Filipino
through an
family. Okay.
irrevocable trust. And this is all done with attorneys and the CPA and all done with the proper thing. So, yeah. And then we have these 5 houses that 2 of them get sold to buy a big house. One house you could sell to be 100, 200,000 to do an up care, to do a renovation of the
Mhm.
existing house, make it larger, do an addition, or build a second house on the side. And then the other 2 houses can be profit that keeps going in. So these little old ladies now have been in poverty, who are cold, who are hungry at the end of the month, who don't have enough, all of a sudden have 5 to 10, $15,000 a month to go on vacation, to go on a cruise ship,
Mhm.
to do whatever they want. They're in their golden years, and now they've got 5, 10, $15,000 a month to spend, and it's their decision. It's their condo.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's what my plan was to be. And then the humanity was to deal with the opioid. So I have a way of detoxifying, because I had 5 medical clinics before I left. From the wife kicking me out and stuff like that. So I left that all behind, but I can start that all up again. And we had a serious detox program, and we take them through a 90-day lockdown thing, and they
Mhm.
come out as basically an instructor. They know how to take people who are addicted to anything, and in a matter of 90 days, they're completely clean, a 100% body clean, and they live on a farm. They're back to God's mother nature. They leave all this crazy music
Mhm.
behind, all this vaping, all this internet. They live where we should be living, is on a farm. So that was my plan, and that's what got me to thinking about going to the Philippines. So once I was able to, it took a while, because once you have no ID, it's really difficult if you have nothing. So it
Yeah.
took me about a year. I had to take little steps, get a state ID, and then that could lead me. Well, I had to have an address.
Mhm.
So I was kind of bouncing around. So I had to have a friend have an address, and I say I lived there. And then I had to prove I had to have a lease. And then after about 6 months, and it was really weird, to get a driver's license, you would apply. Then about 2 to 3 months later, you'd get your appointment. And I had to take the driving test again. I had done that when I was 16. So here I had to study and learn how to. I knew how to drive, but I never had anybody inspecting me. So went on a drive, and then got the license, and then got the passport. And oh, that was difficult, because they rejected it because I had a PO box. No, no, you got to have a real address. So then I had to go and find an address, and not reapply, but I had to send in a
An address.
correction
Yeah.
to the passport.
Wow.
So I finally got all that, and then I was able to. Well, and the reason why I'm now a pensioner is that I was going for custody. It's for my 11-year-old,
Mhm.
because I wanted to be able to have a voice in his life. He calls me dad. I called him my son. So they had a provision there that you could be not a foster, but not an adoption, but it was like recognizing that I'm a dad. So they
Okay.
had that. So
That's
I'm going
important.
in front of the judge, and the judge say, "Well, how are you going to pay? How are you going to support this son of yours if you don't have any money? You have a vow of poverty?" I went, "Okay, I'll go to Social Security." So
Finally
I
go get it
applied for Social Security, and I got 6 months all said
all at
at
once.
once. So there was my, all at once, 6 months. So I was never going to
Okay.
apply. Now, here's something crazy. I put into the Social Security system, right? And you can figure out a lot of years, right?
Mhm.
How much
Yeah.
did it take for me to draw out of Social Security to be what I put into it? How many years do you think it would be of my Social Security payments that equaled what I personally put in? Take a guess. How many years do you think
15,
it is?
20 years? 20 years maybe?
Oh, yeah, 9 months. 9 months.
Whoa,
9 months
9
of
months, and
my
then everything else
Social
is just
Security
what they're giving
benefit
you.
check. Yep. For 9 months of what I received is exact amount of what I put into it. Oh,
Wow.
your employer put in. Yes, I know. That was 3 months. So 3 months of what the employer matched is what I drew out in benefits. So this system is completely upside down.
Yeah, there's no way. I mean,
But I
it
had
can't sustain itself. There's no way. If people
it,
are partly
once
putting
you do the
anything in,
math,
yeah.
and that's why I didn't want to be part of it. I didn't
Mhm.
want to be part of the scam. So then I had to do that to show the judge that I could do that. But the girlfriend threw a fit, she didn't want me involved. So I won't be able to see my son for another 8, 7 years. And that's
Oh
what
gosh.
tears me up is I have a
Yeah.
son, and that's
Yeah.
back to home math, how these women cuckold. Cuckold means you find some guy to raise your child for you. So this was, and she told me after 2 years of being together, she didn't love me anymore. Well, wouldn't it have been good to have told me when the kid was 4 that she
Hmm.
didn't love me anymore? But she kept me along because I was like
Taking care
the
of his
friend
son. Yeah.
category. And the
Wow.
situation is what home math and the other these TikTok ladies talk about. So I experienced it. So now I won't be able to see my son for 7 years until he's 18. Then I can legally contact him. And he's got a YouTube channel. So I see things that he puts up there, but I can't contact him because I can't really do it legally. And I don't
Yeah.
want to get in any trouble and stuff. So nothing wrong, but that's what happened. So ay, ay, ay. So
Yeah.
that's why I had to take Social Security. Then I said, okay, I'll take the 1 year, and then I'm going to tell Social Security to cut me off. Don't give me any more money. And they
Hmm.
said, yes, we can do that, but in a couple of months, you're going to be required to take it.
Yeah,
I
because
said,
at the
wow,
age you get to, you
yeah,
have to take it. Yeah. Wow.
what? This is crazy. And so I went, okay. So I take a check, but my whole purpose here is to bring back the funds. And
Hmm.
I don't know what I'll do. I think I'll just, that's it. I'm going to get married to my fiance, who's got a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. And if I die, they get the check.
They
So
get the check. Yeah.
I don't know. But there'll be money coming in from my book because I'll be telling that story that I've got here, but also the debt relief book and stuff like that. So I arrived here in the Philippines with the purpose of going to farms, teaching
Hmm.
them how to build a dome house with bamboo. It's a free plant and it's amazingly strong. So with my showing them how to build it, what we do is we take the parts and we have it all prepared. Once it comes to the job site, there's no tools needed,
Hmm.
only a zip tie. So when the kit comes to the job site, one worker is all it can take for about a 25-foot dome would take about 2 hours for one guy to put together. And all he's going to do is zip tie it together with all the natural material, and up you'd have a dome, and then cover it with plastic, or cover it with a tarp, or you can cover it with natural pond fronds and stuff like that. And then you've got a house for free. And then you go, what about the typhoon? Well, all you got to do is dig a trench, drop it down, put dirt around the base, and that dome is not going to lift off. And if something gets damaged, it's very simple to refix it and to change out the bamboo pole.
Well, I don't know what happened. I said that was amazing that one person could just have a kit and be able to put it together by reading instructions, and 20 to 30 people have a place to stay that would be out of the
Yeah.
rain and out of the elements if possible. So that is just so neat that that's a possibility. That's so
Then
cool.
once that's built, that's the foundation for my free medical clinic. So
Okay.
because I have come across some amazing things about this COVID and the vaccine, that there is actually antidote to this biological weapon that they have released on humanity. And so our clinic, we will be doing testing. We test for the D dimer and the IgG4. And these two tests tell me that they have blood clots, and we have ways of, by an antidote of this weapon, poison that they unleashed on us. And the IgG4 tells us that they are under attack, and the body is purposely not letting you know. It's an antigen that tells the body to relax, don't worry about it. And that's why you're having a sudden death. You have these not only the blood clots causing the heart attacks and strokes of young people. It's even an 8-year-old just died there in India, and you can see it on the video. She's in the school, and all of a sudden she collapses. She's dead from a blood clot. because she got the vaccine. So it's something that I have to do, and the medical clinic will be absolutely free to the community. So
Okay.
from money that I generate, it doesn't take very much, but I will be opening these free medical clinics and teaching them how to do
Mhm.
it. And then I move on to the next farm, and we do vertical farming. So we don't bend over anymore. That's 10,000 years ago. So I will be teaching them how to build and grow food vertically and with a huge abundance. So I think we're living in the free revolution now. So that's what I want to do is give it away freely.
Cool.
So
That's
that's
neat.
kind of like how it came up to it. But uh, I needed some revenue, so I thought of a book about how to eliminate your credit card debt. So if we want to dive into that, that'd be kind of
Yeah,
a fun
please,
thing
let's
we
do
can
it.
talk about. But you might have
Yeah,
some
talk about the
questions
credit
about
card
the
debt. And
journey.
yeah. So how does that work? Your book is,
Okay.
yeah, tell us about your book.
Okay. First of all, I'm a doubting Thomas, so I want your doubts, your cynicism, your hostility. I don't mind that at all because I'm going to be treading on things that people think they know something. And yeah, people like me to teach them some things, but my people like you to have them think, but they really think they hate you. So here's some real thinking. So what I want you to do is also anybody listening to this podcast, send this podcast to your CPA, your accountant, or your bookkeeper, and have them look at what I'm talking about in the subject here, and go to my landing page, and I got a free book there. If you sign up for a free 15-minute consultation with me, I'll give you the $69 book I wrote that's on Amazon right now called Forgive and Forget: How to Nuke Your Credit Card Debt. So I do this freely to you, and I would love to have a conversation with you. And there's nothing for me to sell. I can just tell you how to do this and how to get out of the debt. What great candidate would be someone who's got a company with $500,000 of alleged bank issued credit card debt who's going to go bankrupt. And with me having a conversation with their CFO, which is probably a CPA for the IRS, and your DNA that I grew up with. So, and then your attorney is most likely your vice president. This would be perfect. So, what they could do is very simply file a lawsuit tomorrow, and the bank will respond in about 14 days, and then you immediately file an injunction, and then in about 30 days the judge is going to find them in contempt of court, and because they don't have an invoice and they don't have a promissory note, and there's no contractual agreement because of fraud. So they're going to negotiate, and negotiators eliminate all the debt, no 1099-C, and bye bye. And that's what happens. It happened to me, a long time ago. And so I know it works. But now the secret is the injunction. So the three arguments are basically: one is the bank never can produce an invoice, and an invoice is a debt. Two, the bank never loaned you any money because you had to sign a promissory note. And three, you say, well, I use the card. I have the terms and conditions. The Supreme Court has ruled many times that fraud undoes all contracts. So you do not have a contract. So how you nuke your credit card debt is when you say debt, law is language. And when you say that, you owe it. I'm sorry, you say you have a debt, you owe the money, so pay it. But there's sometimes we watch on the news, and they'll have a bank robber, and they say alleged. Well, we see the guy, we know the guy. He dropped his
Mhm.
ID. They pick it up, and here's his name, here's his picture. You know it's this guy, and they still have to say alleged.
Right.
So, how do I nuke my alleged credit card debt? Oh, that's the good thing to say. So, a true credit card is like if you go to a tire store, I think maybe Big O or some Firestone tire company, you go to their tire store and you need tires in your car. You walk in and they say it's going to be $1,000 to buy the tires and to mount them on your car. And you go, I don't have 1,000, but I'm getting a refund check or a bonus check in a couple 3 weeks. Oh, well, why don't you apply for in-store credit card? Okay, and they come back, you're approved. You go, wonderful. And the tire store is thrilled because they don't want the tires. They
Yeah.
bought them. They don't want them. They want you to have, no, they want your money. So
Yeah.
they put the tires on your car and they'll get the money later. So a statement comes about 30 days later and says you got to pay this. And if you say alleged, well, here's the invoice. Here's the day you came in. Here's the tires we put on your car, and here's the taxes, and here's the total amount. And yes, you did pay this much, but you have an outstanding balance. They can prove that you have a debt. So on those, you have to pay. What about the other kind of credit cards? Look on the back of your credit card. If it says Bank of America, Citibank, Wells Fargo, you've got a bank issued alleged credit card, and that's where they don't have an invoice.
Hmm.
So, um, so because the bank never gave you goods and services, they never could have
Yeah.
extended you credit.
Yeah.
So that's why it's not a credit card. So then you say, oh, it was a loan. Okay, okay. Before we move into that can of worms, you have to agree that the
Promissory note.
bank never gave you goods and services, could never have issued you credit for something that you owe them and you have to pay them back. So once you got that part understood, okay, the credit card is just a phony name they put on there to trick you. So now what? Um, when you go into a bank, that's it. When you go into banks only do banks and your relationship is only about loans. When you have no money and
Hmm.
you go into a bank, what do you expect to come out with?
Not a whole bunch of money, but they give it to you anyways because you don't have
Oh,
anything.
you
You
put a
usually have to
note
have money to get
to the
from the loan
teller
money.
and
Yeah.
rob the place. But if you're
Yeah.
not going to rob the place, you go into a bank expecting to come out with money.
Money.
Okay, so you fill out, you want a loan. Now you probably don't know this, but I have a link for you, and takes you right to a legal website, and it says the banks don't lend money, and and they also don't make deposits. You go, I make a deposit every time I go to the bank. No, what you're doing is loaning your money to the bank. The bank is paying you interest on the loan. So the only relationship you have with banks is either you borrow from them or they borrow from you. You
Hmm.
call it a deposit, but every time you take money to a bank, you leave it there and you walk out with checks, a debit card, and your passbook for your savings or a checking account.
Hmm.
So that's the relationship you always have with a bank. Either you are loaning them money by called a
Hmm.
deposit, or they're loaning you money. So, so now the question is, how do I? So for a loan, you have to have a promissory note. So I've included in a link to the book. It's put out by the Federal Reserve, written in 1961, that I read in my accounting class in 1975. And it
Hmm.
says right there on page 6, what they do, meaning banks, is they have you sign a promissory note first, then they write numbers into your free checking account. Basically, that's what it says. So the bank cannot create fiat money without you signing the promissory note first. So if there is no promissory note, there is no loan. So that's the question: is how do I nuke my bank issued credit card, alleged credit card, is
Hmm.
by writing a letter. That's all it takes. Write a letter to the bank because you want to close your free checking account. The free checking account is associated with a credit card. And then you mentioned some other things about their fraud, which helps by looking at my book. Either you can get it for free or you can buy it. And then you mentioned that. And for most people, because I had a charity called Lighthouse of Hope, and I helped about 1,000 people eliminate the credit card debt, but just by a letter. But when it gets into higher numbers, we're talking 30, 50, 100,000, that's when the bank goes, well, it's going to cost us 20,000 to try to get back 20,000, to pretty much ignore that. But once you get up to a higher amount, then they'll push back. And that's why I have the plan for the initial lawsuit to stop the whole thing. So that's for a different kind of category of people. And I
Okay.
can help their CPA and their attorney because I have all the legal stuff for them. So you're going to say, what checking account? Well, when when we agree that banks advertise. So when they advertise, they try to get you as a customer. Years ago, they would give you a toaster. I don't know if you remember that, or they would give you something to
Hmm.
induce you to come in. When I was in California, a local bank said, hey, come in here and deposit $25 and we'll match it. Well, there you go. What's the deal? You have to keep the account open for 90 days. Okay. So I went in, I deposited $25. I waited 90 days. The
Mhm.
90 days came. I saw $50 in my account. The next day, I went in, I withdrew $50 and closed the account. Now, did I cheat the bank?
No, I guess.
No, they gave
Yeah.
me. Was that a gift?
Yes, it
Well,
was a
yeah, it
gift.
was a gift. So they
Yeah.
gave it to me to induce me to be a customer, but I didn't rip them off. That was their
No.
deal. I went with
Yeah.
their deal and I came out
The
$25 ahead, right?
extra dollars more, yeah.
Same thing with your bank issued alleged credit card. So what they did, they sent you, let's say, a $500 gift card that says credit card on it, but it was a gift card. Well, no, no, I applied. Yes, you applied for a loan. Okay. When you apply for a loan and the bank denies you, do you still get the money?
No.
No, because you got denied.
Yeah.
Well, if you're approved for the loan, then you go into the bank and fill out loan documents. You got
Mhm.
to prove your ability to pay them back. I have a job. Here's my pay stubs. You have to have collateral. You have to have a house to then give up if you don't pay. You have to have a credit report, and a credit
Mhm.
score determines the amount of interest. And then before anything happens, what are you doing? You're signing a promissory note. You have to have that first before they can write numbers into your free checking account. That's the only way the banks do it. And it says it right in the Federal Reserve manual that's taught to every accounting student in the very first class when you're on the subject of banks. It's
Yeah.
just very clear. So no one has ever thought of this, but I did, and I sued the banks, and I was successful. I would say I didn't get a judgment, but I got no no credit card debt anymore, and no 1099-C, which is really important. So that's the way that you do this. So the bank sends you this $500 gift card. So what do you do with it? You go to Home Depot and you buy a toilet, a
Mhm.
golden throne for $500, and you walk out with a receipt.
Mhm.
Now, doesn't that prove to the person checking you that you actually paid for this toilet you're walking out with?
Yeah.
So you have evidence that your invoice, which started off as an invoice that showed how much you owed in the taxes and things, and a payment. So now you have a receipt. So the question is, are you ever going to get from Home Depot in the mail demand to pay the $500?
No.
No, they were paid. Oh, so that's a statement. Yes. So when you get a statement from your checking account, is that a bill?
No, it's a statement.
No, it's just a statement.
Yeah.
Well, when the bank sends you a statement on your bank issued alleged credit card, they make you think that you owe them $500 for the gift they gave you. Don't fall for it. So what do? So when you make your first payment to the bank, remember when money goes to the bank, it's a loan to the
To the
bank.
bank.
The legal website will tell you that when you make a deposit, that's a loan to the bank. So you put $500 and you loaned it to the bank and put in your checking account. You just don't happen to get checks. All you have is a debit card
Mhm.
disguised as a credit card. So when you first get the card, it's a gift card. Once you send money into the bank, they put that
Mhm.
money into your checking account. Now they have it associated with your name. So now your next purchase is your own money. You have been fulfilling and self fulfilling your checking account. You've been funding your checking account every time that end of the month. Then you can use that money. But the bank charges on average, you can look up $23.04 on every credit card. So they're making, let's say, a million credit card customers, they're making $23,400,000 on every purchase, on every card every month. They're making
Mhm.
23 million. And you can see it's about 25% of their profit income. So this
Wow.
is a great money making for them for your own checking account. So let's see. I'm just looking to see where. So basically, the summary is all you need to do is close your checking account. You have a free checking
Cool.
account. It's your money.
And
And
you
the
close
funny
it.
thing is, I can find you money that you didn't even know you had.
Wow.
So my
So,
charity was getting about $250,000 of donations every year, and pretty much no one ever paid. I found the money and we split it. Sometimes 50-50, 75-25. I didn't care. Well, how much do
yeah.
you want back? How much do you want to give it to me? And I'll write the letters for you and I'll hire the attorneys to defend you in court. So it worked out really well. So that's my story. If you have some questions, I'd love to have some more feedback and cynicism,
Cool.
hostility. I don't mind. I've been through this for 20 years. I know the subject very well.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing. I mean, we're at time, but I want to have you come back and maybe we can continue to talk and ask some more questions and how you're helping people. I love, for the folks that are watching today, I would go to what's the landing page for your website where they can go to be able to make that consultation with you?
Well, I'll send you the link. It's a little bit easier just if
Okay.
you just
All
click it
right. So
and
I'll
you can
put
go
it in
right
the I'll
to it.
put it in the show notes. So as you guys are watching it, because I'll be posting this up, so I'll have the links. I want to make sure that you go there and you try out this formula, get the book, have the consultation. He's going to
Mhm.
teach you exactly what you need to do in order to do that. What an amazing life. And thank you for sharing with us today. It has been just a delight. Like I said, I'm going to have you back. So we'll work it out where I can have you back and we can,
Oh yeah.
finish some of the things that you're doing. And you're getting ready to get married. So we'll be able to hear about how your life is and the condo that you bought and what it's like to live in the Philippines. Because I think there's so many people that would be excited to know that that's even a possibility to be able to do that. And it seems like through your life, you've shown there are ways to get just about anything done if you're willing to put in not only the middle part, but you find people who can help you get there. And so I hope people will
That's right.
contact you. I hope people will, find you out there and be able to just glean some of the knowledge that you already have. And so I hope you'll go out and buy his book, or either buy his book or consult with him and get it for free. And then for those of
Mhm.
you who thought this episode was good, subscribe. We have all of these episodes that are happening all the time. And so go ahead and hit the whatever the YouTube things that you do, notifications. You're going to want to be notified when we talk to Tommy again. Tommy, it has been a pleasure. Any closing thoughts that you have that you'd love to share with our audience?
It's just walk in faith.
Okay.
From what I've learned from Rabbi Jesus of Nazareth, there's two new commandments: love and mercy. And love, the word love in Hebrew means I give, and mercy means extreme kindness. So I
Oh,
appreciate you, first of all, for your kindness, extreme kindness, and you giving me this platform. And so all I want to do is give back to the people that contact me the same thing of love and mercy.
oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you again for being part of the show. For those of you on, don't forget you are God's greatest gift. He loves you if you allow him to. And we will look forward to talking to you on the next one. And Tommy will be back. I promise you that. So you guys have an
Oh,
amazing,
great.
wonderful, wonderful, incredible day. And we'll talk to you soon.